You're listening to the Reality of It All podcast, candid conversations about today's hot topics. And now here's your host, Tracy Osborne. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Okay, today we are busting through the motherhood myth. And this is that myth that as women, as moms, we need to have it all, do it all, be it all. And, society seems to put a lot of pressure on us to be this perfect model of a woman, of a mom. And, life is not perfect. Life is imperfect. And as humans, we are imperfect beings. So joining me today is Lola Brognano, and we are going to be busting through this. So Lola, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I am thrilled to have you. This is a great topic because, I see it all the time. People expect us to be perfect, and we're not, and we never will be.
Right.
So I think what I want to start with is actually other women. And I see this on social media. In fact, I just saw something on TikTok earlier. Somebody had made a comment on someone else's video that their child had been crying. And so he had a runny nose and all of that. And they were like, well, first of all, you need to wipe his nose. You need to roll up his sleeves. You need to do that. Why do women especially feel the need to criticize other women? I don't get it.
Oh, that is, that is really hard. You would really think, right, that of all people that would help us through something like this would be other women, especially other mothers who have been through this. And I say jokingly in quotes, I joke all the time that if you want to be shamed, go into a mom group. Okay.
Oh my God. Yes.
It is the biggest shamers, mom shamers. And I think it goes into a lot of perhaps what you were touching light on, right? Is that if we're supposed to be these superhero moms, perfect, right? Then if we can find the weakness in someone else, then we're not having to look within. And it's very easy to point out what other people are and are not doing. I mean, we can use so many examples. One that is really obvious to me is what happened with Britney Spears. Britney Spears, her mental status, her postpartum mental health issues were so magnified that when she was, I recall 20 years ago, I still recall this, 20 years ago, she got criticized so badly about when she didn't put her baby seat in correctly. She is a first-time mom. She was like 22, 23. There's no manual for this. There is no manual for this. They certainly don't tell us how to do this. Even if you've done this before, right? It's not ever the same experience again. And exactly. Part of what we're hoping to bust through and destigmatize and dismantle is the fact that we don't talk about these kinds of things. And so the myth of what this is becomes this huge, unattainable thing. And it plays into this horrible cycle of moms always feeling like bad moms,
Yeah, and it doesn't help when we go to the support groups that are supposed to support us and help us. And, they're like, oh, well, you're a bad mom because you didn't do this, that, and the other thing. And
right. I would never.
One or two mom groups. Yeah, I hear you. I've joined like one or two mom groups in the past and posted like one question and got completely jumped on and just flayed.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
screw all of you. And I laughed. That's not what it's about. We're supposed to be there to help and uplift and support each other. And, motherhood is ugly.
That plays right into, right? Like how isolated this experience can be. And when you reach out, right, and you have that experience of you asking one question and you getting attacked and shamed, most people are going to retreat. Most people are going to pull away and pull back and disengage and emotionally detach. And if we're struggling really at that point, and we have risk factors, right, for other things, and we have, really poor formal or informal support, and you add other things on there like lack of sleep and the hormonal shifts, and you can see someone spiral over something like, hi, I noticed a rash on my child. What might this be? And all of a sudden, you are the worst mother on the planet.
Yes.
Right. And so Why would you ever ask a question again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it floors me. It just absolutely boggles my mind how cruel women can be to each other. Yeah. And I don't see it as much with men towards the moms.
Right.
It's the women. And ladies, knock it off. I'm telling you, knock it off.
We don't need it.
We don't need it. I mean, put yourself in this person's shoes, especially if it's a first-time mom. They're exhausted. They don't know what they're doing.
There's we need the village back in the day, back when humans first populated. Okay. Yeah. Right. Like back in the day, I mean, right. There certainly were gender roles then, and there's gender roles now, but the women stayed back in the cave, but they all stayed back together, and they all reared together. They were not separated off in these, vacuums and islands that they put us on now, where literally we are responsible 24 hours a day for an unpaid position. Okay. And we're not even allowed to have feelings about that. There's a new movie out on Netflix now called The Lost Daughter. And it's kind of about the unspoken about taboo of how not every woman just, is in pure joy over being a mother. And that is definitely not something safe that we can talk about. Talk about being shamed. Oh my God, if you don't love your child every minute of the day, oh my gosh. Flames, right? So
I hear you. I mean, look, I'm a mom of 4 kids. I have 4 girls. I've raised 4 girls. And I can guarantee you there have been many, 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 many times where I couldn't stand my kid. Didn't mean I didn't love them. Right. Love them dearly, always will. But at that particular moment, I absolutely couldn't stand them. And you know what? That is okay.
Yeah. And that's real.
It is. It is real. But what matters is how you handle that moment while you're parenting. I've never actually come right out and said, God, I just can't stand you. It's more like, okay, you need to get out of my face right now. You need to just back off, whatever. But I can't imagine there being a woman on this planet who has gone through motherhood who didn't have a moment where they were just like fed up with their kid.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, back in the 70s, late 60s, Betty Friedan wrote The Feminine Mystique, and she talks about that, about how that right? Intersectionality, that juxtaposition of loving your children, but wanting to run away sometimes. Our dreams, our goals, our everything either gets delayed, paused, stopped, our stuff, including our own identities. And there's just so much, right, that gets wrapped into being a mother. Your own sense of identity and autonomy is lost to this being that requires me, right? Requires, whether I want to or not, to take care of it, for it to live. And there goes so much that goes involved. And you're right, when other women aren't helping and we're becoming isolated, and depending on how we respond, that's definitely one thing I want to talk about is there's a time and a place when we need to get help. If we need help, professional help, it's extremely important, right? That mom's mental health is literally what determines the health of the family. And so mothers have got to have support systems. And if we're becoming more and more isolated, more guilty, more shamed, feeling less and less like we're doing a good job, having harmful thoughts about ourselves, we definitely need to reach out to find someone who can help us, right? Because we do know when women reach out, when they're pregnant and postpartum and they're struggling with these things, with these thoughts, with these feelings, these anxieties, the depression, all of it, intrusive, scary thoughts that come into their minds, when there's a safe space for them to go to. And I say safe space for a reason, because if you're getting shamed in a mom group, that's not a safe space for someone to say what's really going on, right? Like I wouldn't feel safe there either. So, there's places to go, and depending on how you get that information out to your audience, I have plenty of resources for that. For the biggest one being Postpartum Support International, they have people all over the world. So if you were to just go on to their website and say you needed help, they would find someone local, just putting in your zip code. So just wanted to put that out there.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely. We'll make sure we get that in the show notes for sure. And on top of all this, we're expected to, make sure the kids stay alive, but keep the house clean, work, and all the other stuff we do, run around, run these kids everywhere. And it's crazy how much pressure is on women to care for these kids. And everything else that we're supposed to do. And you bring in that first time mom who, like you said, you mentioned postpartum, may not know about postpartum depression, doesn't understand it, doesn't understand what's happening. Why is she having these thoughts? Why doesn't she like her baby? What is going on? And doesn't know that this is perfectly normal. Yeah. And you just need to go and, see your doctor or see a therapist and get some help for it. But it happens.
Yeah. Yes. And thank you for saying that, because it is so common. And they are finding that, 1 in 7 women have postpartum depression. So 1 in 5 have some kind of mood or anxiety disorder. So that's 1 in 5. I mean, if we talk about our friends and our colleagues,
a lot of people.
That is a lot. I mean, if you take the amount of women in this country, and then you out of every 5, that is a lot. Okay, that's a lot. And so we need to have women understand you're not crazy. You're not alone. There is help. We will get better, right? And Absolutely. Sometimes it takes other things for different people, but we've got help, and we want so much to normalize, like you said, the normal experience, not the myth of it. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. And we don't always like our children. Sometimes we want to run away. And sometimes it's the most amazing job, as we know it is. It is the most amazing job in the world, but it's the most difficult, most underappreciated, most undervalued in the world, right? Like mothers don't get sick days. When they're sick, they still have to get up and make sure baby's fed.
Exactly.
Right? We don't get to clock out. We don't get to clock out. And then comes with all of that, right? Like, dang, we have a 24-hour unpaid position on top of all of the invisible things that we're responsible for, the bill pay, the, the spiritual, moral upbringing that we're instilling as well. The laundry, everything, right? The yard, going to the PTA meetings, all of those things, right? And it starts weighing, and we start feeling bad and don't realize how common it is. And all of these things that we're talking about, it becomes very important, because what starts to happen is we start to see in families the other side of untreated maternal mental health, which is what we call ACE scores, right? Adverse childhood experiences starts to increase right there when moms aren't getting the mental health treatment that they need from actually preconception. But if we're going to get real, postpartum, okay, we've got to make sure moms, and if they're not, we start to see the ACE scores already starting. And then when we already know the DNA shifts in the house, and their destination has changed at that point. And so here today is a really good place for us to start to get that message out, right? That the myths are really a setup for women feeling like failures. It's a setup for a lot of untreated, preventable mental health for mom and family. And that we can hopefully in generations, we don't have to talk about this anymore, right?
Absolutely.
Right. We're telling moms how amazing they are instead.
Absolutely. And, along the lines of what this is setting us up for, untreated mental health can often lead to child abuse, child endangerment, child neglect. And it's not that, they've ever meant to be like this. It's, they just never got the treatment. I mean, look at, I can't think of the name, the ones who drowned her kids.
Yes. Susan Smith and Andrea Yates.
Smith. Yeah. Andrea Yates. That's one. Yeah. It wasn't that she was a bad mom. It was postpartum depression. And, people just don't realize how out of control this can get if it's
Andrea Yates and Susan Smith had postpartum psychosis.
Yeah.
And the difference there simply being, right, that one was a medical emergency and it happens very quickly like lightning where they lose touch with reality. But you're right about both of them. They loved their children so much. And that's, again, something that people don't understand is how could we hold mothers to different standards, right? We read about in the paper every day about men who murder their wives and children every day in domestic violence. But yet a mom who's actually suffering from untreated postpartum mental health issues will get life in prison.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And they're out in 3 years for the same crime.
Yep.
But it's all of the construct that goes around it. So, right, the pressure leading up of having to be perfect and doing all the right things. And I'm a terrible mother. And then untreated mental illness comes in. Look, tragedy.
Absolutely. And, in that mental illness can pop up anytime. Depression, that can pop up anytime. I remember when my older two were like, probably about 4, 5, and 3, something around there. They were young. And I had no idea. I never knew what depression was. But I was a young mom. I was a single mom. And I literally went through a period where I could not stay awake. I would stay awake long enough to get them something to eat, get them something to drink, make sure they weren't dead. And I was back out again, and it wasn't that I was being, intentionally neglectful or anything. There was something wrong and I had no idea.
Right.
I didn't know. And I didn't know where to go, who to turn to, who to talk to. And so it's only through conversations like these that we're going to make a change and we're going to make it normal to be able to talk to people about what's going on with being a mom.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And validating, right? And validating when women are having outside of the myth experience and they're guarded and they're hesitating and they're cautious and they're trying to tell us, and they do, and they'll say stuff, right? We'll hear it. And we might have even been guilty ourselves when someone has said something like, how did you do it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a sign to me that someone's questioning how they're doing it. When someone says, how did you do it all? That is a sign to me that they're struggling in some kind of way and they're comparing and they're looking at other people for answers. Right. And so, how many times has someone said, oh, you just know, moms just know, or it's a maternal instinct or anything that does not actually help and is not actually true for every person. And so that, the validating of when women are not having the experience that they're telling us we're supposed to have, like the immediate bond, that actually doesn't happen as often as people try to make that seem. It can actually take quite a while. And if we're evil about this, if there's something wrong with us as women, as mothers, and oh my God, we're never going to talk about it. Who could we possibly talk to about that? I don't even want to hold my baby. Every time it just annoys me every time I hear it crying. I just want to run away. Firstly, women do have a real reason to be concerned about saying stuff like that, because women can actually get charged with neglect, whereas men don't. Actually, they can walk out all day long and they don't get charged with neglect. So, it's an actual real thing for us. And so where is she supposed to go? And so we've got to come in here, right, and have these conversations with our friends, our families. If we have the opportunities on platforms, if we know someone in the community who writes articles for the paper, then we need to start finding ways to raise awareness and reality to what this is like, because it really does take so much for a woman to be able to have a healthy pregnancy and fourth trimester and the postpartum trimester. Because the radical shift in hormones is really kind of the eye that we see is what creates this perfect storm of the other factors kind of just sitting there waiting. And we know that, like you said, right? Depression can happen at any time.
Yep.
And so if women are 50% of this population, we've got to make sure that we have a safe place for them to go. We've got the Alexis Joy Foundation. And Alexis Joy is a woman who sought actively at least 7 times her husband is talking about. He has started the Alexis Joy Foundation. His name is Stephen D. Achilles. And they sought help me. I know something's wrong. I have this fear of this thing. Okay. And he is pretty clear about that. She had a fear of literally what happened. And they just kept pushing her out. She's not sick, or she's not sick enough, or, all the problems that we have. We have this woman who knows something is wrong, and she does not get the help that she needs. And she was desperately asking for and pleading for, and she had a successful suicide. And maternal suicide is one of the 2 leading causes of death postpartum. And that is completely unacceptable. That is a completely unacceptable theme and trend and number. And it's one too many. And we will continue until not one more. So every chance we get, like you said, the ripple effect is important.
Yep.
When one person has the opportunity to correct a shame, right? So sometimes I'll go into those groups so that when someone is getting shamed or the wrong information, I will try to be a voice to reach out to say, hey, mama, hey, I didn't bathe my baby for 4 days either once when I couldn't get out of bed, and it's okay.
Yep.
So the opportunities like this are amazing. And I'm so impressed with, and grateful that you have this opportunity, to spread this message, to your audience.
It's so important. I mean, we're not going to change it if we don't talk about it. We're just not. And, and we've talked a lot in this episode about the whole postpartum thing, but, ladies, this carries on through, throughout your kids' life, because I guarantee you when they hit 18, you're not done.
Right.
You are not done. I promise you. I have one of them who calls me at least 10 times a day. The stupidest things,
Yep.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. But, this is going to continue throughout raising your child, and it is okay. It's okay if the house is messy. It's okay if the toys aren't picked up. It's okay if, the laundry is not folded and put away.
Right.
Or, know, I can't tell you how many times when I had all four at home, my kitchen table was the laundry table. It was like, Mom, I need pants. Go check the table. And it's okay. It really is, because you only have 18 years while they're at home. And
so true.
And really you only have even less than that when you can really be a huge part of their lives, because once they hit those teenagers, they don't want to be around mom.
Right.
So it's okay if the stuff isn't done, or it's not done all the way, or whatever, and you're spending time with the kids and doing other stuff, give yourself a break.
Yes.
You need to give yourself a break.
Yes. I think that's so important, right? Like, I think that is really kind of another thing that we want to stress here is that long-term, not getting laundry done is not what, creates shifts in families. It's how the family views, what's going on in the home, and whether or not they feel attachment, love. That has nothing to do with laundry. Now, mind you, there's a place in that, of course, that we don't live in, households that are not kept, but there's something to be said about the time that we're together, right? I've known, I had a friend who, was struggling, and I'll use the laundry as an example. And she decided to make it as enjoyable as possible, in the sense of, having baby, on her chest, and having like a dancing, singing, event, where it was just them pretending to be on American Idol, and she was folding, and she set her alarm for 5 minutes. And while she was folding some little things that she did not want to be doing, and it was piled high, and it was like the last thing, she was like, listen, I've got to be okay with the fact that I'm not going to get all the laundry done today, and I'm not going to like this, but I'm going to be here. I'm going to be bonding and engaged with my baby, with whether or not it's folding this towel or us sitting there watching the TV, Because we're not going to shame about, screen time either. That's a whole separate thing. Okay.
Absolutely.
But she was able to, while she was able to rock with her baby while she was folding, baby was in the sling, and she was rocking and singing and humming with baby 5 minutes. It helped the bonding. It helped the attachment. She felt a little better. She got a couple of towels folded, but she was able to turn the situation around a little bit to where she was feeling a little better about getting a little bit done, but she still had that positive engagement that we know is what creates loving families, is the time that we do spend together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. And, and the other thing too, that just came to my mind is, it is absolutely okay to ask for help. If you need help, hey, whoever, I need a break. Can you watch the kids for a couple hours? Or, you want to come over and watch TV and help me fold towels while we watch a movie, or, something like that. It is absolutely okay to reach out to your support team and ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness at all.
No, it's a sign of strength, really.
Absolutely.
If you think about it, right? It's you're asking like, hey, I know I need to recharge my battery. Right. So I need to either unplug or plug in. And I've had moms be like, listen, can you come over so I can go take a nap?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like, thanks. I need that. Who doesn't want that?
Right.
So.
Absolutely. Excuse me. Lola, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today. This has been fantastic.
It was an absolute pleasure. Anytime. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for getting this message out.
Oh, that's absolutely my pleasure. And ladies, like I said, again, in these mom groups and stuff with the shaming, and knock it off. It just isn't becoming.
I want to say resist the urge and instead say, how can I support you?
Exactly. These mamas are doing everything that they can, and they just need someone to say, Mama, you got this. Right. You got it. So
Yeah.
Support, not shame. But again, thank you so much. And as you know, I will have all of Lola's contact information, everything in the show notes. Just head over to therealityofitall.com, pull up Lola's episode, and everything will be there for you. So thank you, as always, for tuning in. We'll talk to you in the next show. That's it for today's show. Thanks for listening. Be sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok.